CNN President Jeff Zucker resigned abruptly. You think you know the reason. And what is the real reason?
U.S. Army will discharge service people who have not got vaccinated.
FBI Director Christopher Wray warned CCP intensify its online attack to the U.S. And the House of Representatives is passing a bill that pulled the teeth out of the Competition Act that is targeting the CCP's attack. What is happening here? Welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang.
And I'm Kathy Zhang.
Well, dominating the headline of the media today is the resignation of Jeff Zucker. And and you think you read those articles? If you do, probably you don't, because he's the president of the CNN cable news network. And if you read the news, you think, well, it's because of the following, all right? So he resigned because he did not disclose a consensual relationship with his chief marketing officer, and her name is Alison Galast. And so when CNN was investigating Chris Coomer's scandals last year, which is 2021. Okay, in the memo, the now former CNN President Jeff Zucker said, as part of the investigation into Chris Coomer's tenure at CNN, I was asked about consensual relationship with my closest colleague, someone I have worked with far more than 20 years. I acknowledged the relationship involved in recent years. I was required to disclose it when it began, but I did not. I was wrong. As a result, I'm resigning today. All right, so first, who is Galast? And actually, she's the vice president, senior vice president, and also the chief marketing officer. She got her start as a news anchor and a reporter and a producer in Denver before moving to New York City, and joined NBC at that time. And he joined the corporate communication office in 1996. And while Jeff Zucker was the executive producer of this NBC show called Today, Galast was promoted as the show's lead publicist. As Zucker was promoted to the NBC entertainment president, Galast continued to climb the corporate ladder in the network in NBC's public relations department. Then she rose to become NBC Universal's executive vice president of corporate communication, and but left around the same time that Jeff Zucker moved to head the CNN when Comcast purchased the network. And then Galast briefly left the TV world behind around 2012 for a stint for former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo's communications director. And 4 months later, Jeff Zucker tapped Galast to become CNN's senior VP of communication. And then 1 month later, and she became, 4 months later, okay, she was promoted to the chief marketing officers, and then later become an executive VP at the network. All right. So Breitbart said sources not authorized to speak publicly said Chris Cuomo, remember that he was ousted, right?
Right.
His legal team, which continued to negotiate Cuomo's exit from the network, raised the issue about the relationship between Zucker and Galast. The Puck News reporter Matt Poloni and reported that the CNN recently also received a letter from Coomer's lawyer demanding the preservation of communications between Zucker, Galast, and Coomer. So basically, people saying that it's Chris Coomer is pulling the string and launch an attack. And the Galast and Zucker's relationship by the CNN insiders is an open secret. All right. So now we already got the depth of it. All right, so they got a relationship among them. Zucker did not disclose it, and then Chris Coomer was ousted, and he was unhappy, so they come back and reveal something, expose something, which forced Jeff Zucker to resign.
So that's the reason?
Well, this is, if you read every report of the news, mainstream media, or in Trump's word, lamestream media, that's the conclusion you got. Do you believe it? Can we run a test here? Okay, while you are watching, can you just type there, do you believe that's the case? This is the reason that Jeff Zucker resigned because he did not disclose his consensual relationship with the executive VP, vice president. Okay, let me give you some background here. Gallast filed for the lady, okay. Alison Gallast filed for divorce with her former husband in 2015, and the case was settled in 2017. And Karen Zucker, the former wife of Jeff Zucker, filed for divorce in 2018. And then their divorce subsequently happened, okay, was finalized. So basically, 3 years ago, at this time, 4 years ago, both Jeff Zucker and Alison Gallast, they were singles. They become single. So what's the big deal between the boyfriend and girlfriend that forced this person, this powerful CNN global president, to quit his position and send a shockwave across the field of media? So I don't know. What do you think? How about this? Let me try to play something for you. And let me see whether I can pull this off, because I just wanted. There's a HBO series called The Newsroom. Okay, describing all the episode was the happening, the story inside the newsroom. At that time, the network was described in that drama series is called ACN. Atlanta Cable Network. And CNN, where is CNN based? Atlanta. So basically, it was prototyping after the CNN. ACN equals to CNN. And in the season 1, in the third episode, there's one scene that the owner, Leona of the ACN, was trying to fire someone, that his top anchor. And let's see whether we can hear from how that decision was made. The voice is not coming through.
Most watched anchor on cable.
By creating what we call context. His firing would be viewed as a noble step on the part of a corporation willing to sacrifice ratings for integrity.
You'd manufacture a reason to do it?
I've got a really good job, Charlie. Now, you want to play golf or you want to fuck around?
Okay, I need to provide some context to this little recording, a voice clip. So basically, they were trying to fire the McAvoy, who is not McAvoy, the leading anchor, who is the number 3 in the cable news world, and she doesn't like him. So the director of the TV division was asking, how could you do that? He said, I'm going to create a context. And indeed, she did. Later on, she created a context where it's very natural or least damaging to fire this anchor. So in the real world, is that also what happened? Anyway, let me just read it to you. Former President Trump's statement today following this episode. This is what he said. He said, Jeff Zucker, a world-class sleazebag who has headed the rating and real news challenged CNN for far too long, has been terminated for numerous reasons, but predominantly because CNN has lost its way with viewers and everybody else. Well, okay. And so let's do a little analysis to see whether that's the case. Let's just recall, okay, for those of you who've been around long enough, you remember that CNN was founded in 1980 by Ted Turner, right? It is the first one that revolutionized the around-the-clock news coverage on TV. And after it was founded, it was a lackluster, TV network. It was, innovative, but does not gain much viewers. But in the Gulf War in 1990 and in 1991 was a watershed event for CNN that catapulted the channel past the big 3, NBC, CBS, and ABC, American network in viewership for the first time in the history. All right, largely due to an unprecedented historical scoop. CNN was the only news outlet with the ability to communicate from inside Iraq during the initial hours of the coalition's bombing campaign. All right. It just gathered 1 billion people viewing during that event, that invasion. And on the September 11th of 2001, and CNN was the first news network that broke the news. However, in that reporting, actually Fox, which was founded 16 years after CNN, caught on, and it became the most viewed network, cable news network. So the two network was kind of competing, and the CNN was quite international. All right, so into American military service people around the world, and for American travel around the world, they view CNN as the American network. The Larry King Show, okay, at that time was well known, and it was known all around the world. CNN was namely, another name for America. However, after 2001, Fox pretty much took the #1 position in viewership every single year for 20 years. All right, so Fox has been leading. The reason very simple, because Fox was broadcasting news that meet the need of the conservative viewers. However, when it comes to 2020 became a very big exception. That was the last year of the Trump administration. If you recall, there was the pandemic. There's a lot of breaking news, and there's a lot of value clash, and the presidential election. All right. So post the November 3rd, the presidential election date, Fox News viewership dropped big way, and the CNN just keep climbing up and retook the #1 position in the cable news. And then in the beginning of the 2021, in the January 6th, the Capitol Hill incident, and the CNN got 2.7 million viewers that average in that week. That was the record-breaking time. So what happened to the Fox News? Viewers dropped, right? And it was a reason because they abandoned the network for calling the election result, and even before the election count was done. Arizona, remember that? So a lot of the viewers, they become disfranchised with the Fox News, and the CNN took the spot. So, but 1 year from that week, from the January 6th week, CNN dropped 80% of its viewers. So 1 year later, in the first week in January of the 2021, CNN averaged only 550,000 viewers in that week. What does that mean? Fox got 1.4 million, and MSNBC got 750,000. CNN only got 550,000. All right, in the key demo, 25-year-old to 54-year, and the Fox got 223,000 viewers. CNN is only 113,000. But it's still more than the MSNBC in the key demo, which only got 88,000. Okay, so look at the entire January of the 2021. Fox averaged 1.4 million total viewers, and it actually accomplished a 4% increase compared to last year. So basically, as people abandoned the Fox News right after 2020 election, people slowly came back. Okay, so after 1 year, Fox actually gained a 4% increase compared to last year, while MSNBC lost 60% compared to 1 year ago, which is January 2021. While CNN, they dropped 74%. Okay, 74% compared to their record high 1 year ago. Well, so despite the year of 2021 as the most watched starting the year as the most watched cable news network, CNN finished 2021 with only one program in the top 25 of the cable news options at the 9 o'clock Eastern time slot. So, and that one show was hosted by Chris Cuomo, who was forced out due to its the allegation against him of sexual misconduct and his role in advising his brother, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, when he faced similar allegations. And other hosts like Don Lemon and another primetime anchors also come under fire for his coverage of the Empire star Jesse Smollett's trial, if you remember that. So CNN got himself into a lot of trouble. So in the last December, which is 1 month ago, CNN, actually 2 months ago, CNN collapsed and to the 17th place among all basic cable. And the worst yet, the channel's viewers in the key primetime demo was only good enough for the 31st place among cable stations. So Kathy, you can see, it's really just, you cannot call it a big name anymore. It just basically lost all the viewers.
Yeah, but so how does that to do with Zucker's resignation?
Yeah, that's why I want to read the second part of the Trump's statement. And he said, now is a chance to put fake news in the backseat because there may not be anything more important. There may not be anything more important than straightening out the horrendous lamestream media in this country, in our country, and in the case of CNN, throughout the world. So basically saying that he was fired because of the terrible performance of the network.
Okay.
And now basically he's saying that with the single CMO who's single and Jeff Zucker is also single, they have this open secret. He did not disclose that, and he was removed. Do you believe that? Which story do you believe? You believe that, or you believe the possible reason that that Wray just described here? I just love to see your point of view. All right, so Kathy, let's move on to this next piece of news. How about that?
Okay.
All right, it has to do with it's just the Army Secretary Christine Wormuth issued a directive today, and basically he said the Army commanders has been told to begin involuntary administrative separation proceedings. Basically, it's called discharge, against all regular Army soldiers and active duty reservists who have refused vaccination and do not have approved exemption request or one still pending. All right? So the statement said the Army readiness depends on soldiers who are prepared to train, deploy, fight, and win our nation's war. And unvaccinated soldiers present a risk to the force and jeopardize its readiness. All right, and a service member discharged over the vaccine order will be ineligible for involuntary separation pay, and may be required to pay back any unearned incentive or special payment. Okay, so the Army statement also said on January 27th, the most recent day for which the data is available, 97% of active Army soldiers were at least partially vaccinated, which would make nearly 15,000 people eligible for discharge. All right. Actually, the Pentagon announced a vaccine mandate for the military in last August. But each service has set its own deadlines. Actually, Army is not the first. Army is the last. Last month, the Air Force discharged 27 people for refusing to get vaccination. And the Navy took steps to begin a separation process for unvaccinated sailors though a Texas judge earlier this month ruled in favor of Navy SEALs who seek a religious exemption. All right, so in the Army, 6 regular Army leaders, including 2 battalion commanders, have been relieved, while general officers has issued 3,073 written reprimands over vaccine refusal. All right, so let's talk about the religious exemption a little bit. The Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 allowed workers to request an exception to a job requirement if it is conflicts with their sincerely held religious beliefs, practices, and observances. All right, so but even with that kind of exemption, for the Army service people who file for religious exemption, altogether 22,910 people raised that. You know how many was approved?
Yeah.
Zero. 266 of the request application were denied, and 2,644 are still pending result. And for those people who are denied and also pending result, they will be discharged.
Wow.
Wow, isn't that too harsh? What do you think? Type of your thought here. So So let's move on to the next piece of news.
Yeah, before that, I saw some comments about, because actually during yesterday, I think, just yesterday or the day before, that Pfizer is asking FCC to approve its vaccine for the children under 5 years old.
Okay.
So they're pushing for that. I saw our audience here, Ting Ting said, she's not gonna do that for her children. So although, the vaccine mandate for the employees of 100 and up is already canceled, right? But still, the vaccination for the children is still pushing under the way. So, all right, so next we'll just bring you the story related to U.S. and China. FBI Director Christopher Wray spoke about countering threats posed by the Chinese Communist government inside the United States at the Ronald Reagan Library on January 31st. So because there was a FBI exhibition going on in the Presidential Library of Ronald Reagan, so I think he was invited to speak. But he focused solely on the threat posed by the Chinese government, especially here at home. He talked about why is that. He mentioned this threat is to our economic security as well as to our freedom.
Because in many ways it's reached a new level, more brazen, more damaging than ever before. And it's vital that all of us focus on that threat together.
So Ray, in the beginning, he emphasized the threat he mentioned is posed by the Chinese Communist government and the Chinese Communist Party, not the Chinese people and certainly not the Chinese Americans. And he pointed out that those Chinese people are themselves frequently victims of the Chinese government's lawless aggression. So under this background, he talked about the brazening aggression by the CCP. I think, he's from the Trump era. So it was the first administration of the United States to really separate the Chinese Communist Party and the government with the Chinese people, which, both we and I think it's a great move. I wanted to just start with a story, a case that Christopher Wray mentioned is a espionage case. The person involved is called Xu Yanjun, and he was trying to steal corporate secret of a Cincinnati-based General Electricity Aviation. So this Xu Yanjun, he's a Chinese intelligence officer. And last November, he was finally convicted of economic espionage in Cincinnati. So Xu was part of Xu. His last name is Xu.
Oh, Xu.
Yeah, Xu. It's not Xi.
You confused me.
Okay, so this person was part of the Chinese Ministry of State Security, usually abbreviated as MSS, so which is one of the CCP's spy services. His official position was the deputy director of the 6th Bureau of the MSS in Jiangsu province. So Xu was in a unit responsible for stealing aviation-related secrets from the United States and Europe. He used another 2 fake names to carry out his espionage work and posed as a representative of the Jiangsu Province Association for Science and Technology. So Xu Yanjun was targeting an advanced engine made by GE and a foreign joint venture partner. So how he did it? He identified a 41-year-old Chinese descent engineer in GE who deeply involved in the design and analysis of such engine. So we call him A, right? So Then Xu Yanjun used another co-optee, we call B, who is an official in a prominent Chinese university. So B contacted this GE engineer A through LinkedIn. And Ray pointed out, the CCP spy, they oftentimes use social media, especially like LinkedIn, to conduct, to get their access to people.
Looks like a very innocuous approach.
So they offered this engineer a trip to China to give a presentation on his work at this prestigious university in China. And in return, compensating him for like $3,500 speaking fee, plus covering all the travel cost. So A, this engineer, loaded 5 GE aviation documents on his personal laptop and flew over to China. So according to the FBI report, GE believed that one of those 5 documents may have been the technical data belong to the United States export control on China, which is, means it's sensitive and secret documents. So A, the engineer, did not tell GE that he is bringing confidential company documents to China and the purpose of his visit. All of his colleagues just know that he went there for a wedding. So several months later, during FBI's investigation, A told FBI that he encountered some technical problems at the beginning of his presentation in China. Then he was told that the projector was not working, so he had to allow them to put a USB drive into his personal laptop, which contains the 5 documents. Okay, so while he was in China, he, along with the B, they contact each other, right? And had lunch with Xu Yanjun, so they connected that way. After this engineer came back to the United States, he kept in touch with Xu Yanjun for several months. During this time, this period of time, Xu suggested him to collect more technical information from GE. And on the other hand, Xu kept in touch with the MSS hackers in China to make sure that they could access the implant that his co-optee uploaded. Remember, they said there's a problem, right? So luckily, A's trip actually took attention from FBI. And they contacted GE, and GE was quick to cooperate with them. So they started the investigation. In early 2018, Xu agreed to meet A, Xu Yanjun, the spy, agreed to meet A in Belgium. But actually, he was met with FBI agent who presented him the indictment documents. So that's how he was caught. So Christopher Wray said Xu's case is a great illustration of the Chinese Communist government's multi-pronged strategy for stealing valuable secrets from the United States.
Yeah, may I insert something, Kathy? So
What makes the Chinese government's strategy so insidious is the way it exploits multiple avenues at once, often in seemingly innocuous ways. They identify key technologies to target. Their Made in China 2025 plan, for example, lists 10 broad ones, the keys to economic success in the coming century, spanning industries like robotics, green energy production and vehicles, aerospace, biopharma, and so on. And then they throw every tool in their arsenal at stealing that technology to succeed in those areas.
So, in this case, GE was quick to cooperate. FBI, solved this case, and so that the GE's decade-long hard work and the billions of dollars investment was not undercut. Yeah. So, what's your comment?
Well, I was just I met this former chief editor of the National Geographics. All right, and she told me a story that she was approached also by some people from China through, just social media, and who offered, I don't know, remember how much, maybe like $20,000 or $50,000 for just making a trip to China. She turned it down. So I asked her, so why? Why did you turn it down? And she said, it looks fishy.
too easy money, right?
Just one trip, they pay me $50,000. I think that's too fishy, so I didn't take it. So for a person like her, I really have admiration, right? Because her sense of, the basically sense of morality, her sense of morality prevented her from even just going there. And if she went, 99% of the opportunity, not 99%, 100% of chance that came from the CCP or the CCG. And in this case, this engineer A just fell into the trap.
Yeah, and he actually went a step further, lied to his company and to FBI, because initially he said, I didn't present anything confidential in my presentation. So Wray said Xu Yanjun is just one Chinese intelligence officer working for an entire unit dedicated solely to steal aviation-related technology secrets, right? So, and he said that's just one of those 10, at least 10 technology areas that Chinese government has prioritized for stealing. So according to their investigation, he said so many cases.
When we tally up what we see in our investigations, over 2,000 of which are focused on the Chinese government trying to steal our information and technology, there is just no country that presents a broader threat to our ideas, our innovation, and our economic security than China. The Chinese government steals staggering volumes of information and causes deep, job-destroying damage across a wide range of industries. So much so that, as you heard, we're constantly opening new cases to counter their intelligence operations, about every 12 hours or so.
So every day, 2 cases, right, related to Chinese espionage. So Christopher Wray gave another example that the Chinese Communist government unleashed, he called a massive and sophisticated hacking program in the United States, which is bigger than those of any other major nations combined.
Wow.
Yeah, and you see, they have cooperation in almost every major city in China with sufficient funding and sophisticated tools, and often join forces with cyber criminals. He said in just one case, a group of MSS-associated criminal
MSS means Ministry of Security and whatever, Security Service.
Yeah, so it's basically a spy service, right?
Basically they are KGB.
Yeah, so a group, in just one case, he said that a group of MSS-related cyber criminals, hackers, they stole terabytes from hundreds of U.S. companies.
Yeah.
You are ways with a technical background, right? Terabytes, several terabytes. That's a lots of information. So, and he said the CCP government also used intelligence officers in the meanwhile to target the same technology secrets. So they are just using multiple tools and fronts to attack their targets. And he said that the Chinese Communist government also make investments and make partnerships to position their proxies to valuable technology, to take the valuable technology. And the CCP use money. Sometimes they also conceal the companies they control, or they would control the CCP cells, he called the CCP cells, within the company. So using shell companies to disguise such effort from the United States companies and from the Federal Foreign Investment Screening Program called the CCPs. Mm-hmm. And we know one case already, right? At least when they tried to, when CCP tried to buy a mega radio station in Southern California.
XXES.
Yeah, they used a company, a shell company in New York. It's a Chinese American company. It's an investment company, have no radio or media experience after whatsoever. So anyway, so he said within China, Chinese Communist government forced U.S. companies to partner with government-owned companies, the Chinese companies, then abuse and exploit such partnerships in that way to force technology transfer. So Christopher Wray pointed out that the Chinese Communist government's economic espionage isn't just about its own companies can pull ahead using stolen technology, but the harm also caused in the United States, our company and our workers. The company failed, right? Job lost, and then it's across the country in a whole range of industries. It affects just the whole country. So besides that, he also pointed out that this harm is not only to our economic prosperity, but also harming our freedom of speech, of conscience, and the CCP even meddling our election. And he said one egregious example is a thing called the fox hunt. By now, many of our audience probably heard about that. It targets, captures, and repatriates former Chinese citizens living overseas, who the CCP sees as a political or financial threat. So. This really undercuts the freedom that our Constitution and the laws promise to these citizens because they're becoming United States citizens.
Yeah, they basically coming in the United States and just essentially abduct people, okay? And the so-called code name fox hunt is essentially just dissident hunt, or the manhunt. That's what they've been doing all across the world, all over the world, they're doing this.
Yeah, and how many people they have, captured and hold them back? According to Wray, over the past 8 years, the Chinese government has brought back more than 9,000 people worldwide back to China, so that they will be imprisoned or controlled. He said there are currently hundreds of people in the United States who are on the Chinese Communist government's official fox hunt list, and a whole lot more are not on the official list. And many times they are green card holders or naturalized citizens. And the CCP sometimes hold these people's relatives back in China hostage until the victims go back to China.
Yeah. So the typical tactic would work like this. For example, they want to get away back to China. Okay, so they send someone to me and saying that first, if you go back, really nothing will happen to you. We'll treat you nice. There's no big deal. The second, if you don't, we're gonna hurt your family. We're gonna hurt your family in China. Hurt your father or your mother. So you think it over. So many of them actually. They have to, or they chose to go back to China by themselves because of this allure and the threat. Once they go back to China, of course, there's no harming thing. Well, just almost without any exception, turn out to be a lie. That's CCP's, their behavior.
So another aspect is how the Chinese government is willing and is able to exert power here in the United States. So Wray gives you examples, including how it banned NBA broadcasting in China for an entire year just because the NBA, the Houston Rocket NBA executive tweeted in support of Hong Kong democracy protest in 2019. So he said the Chinese government is getting more brazen, controlling that kind of speech. And in November, just a couple months ago, the Chinese embassy put out letters effectively warning United States businesses that if they want to do business in China, they need to fight against Chinese government-related bills in our Congress. So the CCP also tried to corrupt and buy our leaders, political leaders, including by influencing elected officials.
They play the long game. The Chinese government understands that politicians in smaller roles today may rise to become more influential over time. So they look to cultivate talent early, often state and local officials, to ensure that politicians at all levels of government will be ready to take a call and advocate on behalf of Beijing's agenda.
Okay, stop here.
The Chinese
Okay, let's stop here. You remember Eric, the California congressman, Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
Okay, he was approached by this CCP spy, Fang Fang.
Fang Fang, yeah.
Yeah, early on when he was still a council member in East Bay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Bay Area. And then he became a congressman and even sitting in the intelligence committee of the House, right?
Yeah, they're very patient, as you can see. When this guy was just a council member. How many council members do we have? We got 2,000 cities here. Okay, we got literally more than 10,000 council members. They could work at a very low level and wait for them to ascend, and then they're gonna reap the harvest later on.
Yeah, let's continue.
All right.
government is not the first with authoritarian ambitions. As I mentioned when we started, President Reagan and his fellow Cold War presidents knew a thing or two about confronting tyranny. But China may be the first government to combine authoritarian ambitions with cutting-edge technical capability. It's like the surveillance nightmare of East Germany combined with the tech of Silicon Valley.
Yeah. So that's the challenge we are facing right now. So how to fight against such challenge? Wray said that the FBI will and is applying many of the lessons learned in the fight against terrorism to all aspects of countering the threat posed the Chinese Communist government. He also pointed out that the CCP understands the Western world's free and open society and tries to exploit it. But he pointed out that the Chinese government's worldview works as a blinder too. So although the sheer number of the sheer volume of the criminal and the threatening actions from the Chinese government is immense, but Wray said that the good news is that the United States, as well as partners and the allies, these days are more alert to those dangers than ever. So he concluded with President Ronald Reagan's words.
All of us in America and across the free world are in this together. And as President Reagan said in his inaugural address, no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women.
Yeah. And he said, it's need everybody together for this long and important fight now under the way. So, so that's, again, about the threat that CCP is imposing to the United States, especially here in our homeland. And
let's pause a little bit, and I want to say thank you for Robert Geronimo, and thank you for your donation of $20 to us. And also early on, James, California, you donated $5, and you have this comment: when the Kathy Show can replace CNN. Thank you. That's our plan a few years down the road with your support. All right, so the last piece of news actually is a little disheartening, right? And discouraging, I would say.
Right.
And so what is it about?
So, we just talked about how, no matter what, the FBI director, he really sees the great threat, it's the biggest threat, right? It's from the Chinese Communist government. Now, back to our House, the House China bill. So what about it? So last June, the Senate passed a bipartisan legislation, which is called the United States Innovation and the Competition Act. And then a few days ago, the Democrats-controlled House also authored a corresponding bill called the America Competes Act, which also known as the China Bill. However, the Republican lawmakers now feel that Democrats are promoting this bill now as a jobs legislation designed to ease inflation ahead of possibly contentious midterm election cycle. Why is that? The Senate bill was designed to promote technology, manufacturing, and the research policies that would enhance the United States' competitive power amid rising aggression from the CCP, as we already illustrated. So that bill included provisions to prevent American researchers from engaging in foreign talent recruitment programs, such as the China government's Thousands Talent Plan, right? Mm-hmm. And to establish a Federal Research Security Council to prevent the outward flow of research and the technology related to national security. So that's a two-step. Then the House bill removed both of these provisions and cut about $200 billion in initiatives to improve U.S. technology and research. Instead, it included several initiatives to promote things like green energy, racial equity, and immigration. Among those initiatives is one provision to establish the position of Chief Diversity Officer in the National Science Foundation. And this office would receive $5 million annually. And another would remove cap on the number of green cards that would be given to doctoral students studying STEM fields at universities in the United States. So the congressional Republicans blasted these changes for ignoring the threat posed by the CCP efforts to steal technology and research. For example, House Republicans from the Energy and the Commerce Committee released a statement saying that this legislation is actually can be called the America Concedes Act. The ranking committee member, Kathy Rogers, pointed to the parts of the House bill such as a $45 billion supply chain resiliency initiative as a slush fund for special interest, and criticized the fact that the new bill does not prevent allotted funds from being used to purchase materials and parts from China. He said the CCP tries to compete with the United States and the other free market economies by cheating, stealing, and using their centrally controlled economy to pick winners and losers through massive government subsidies. But instead of embracing free market and American innovation and ingenuity, this legislation, she said, tries to copy China's own dangerous path of centralized industrial policy and the massive government handouts that benefit the ruling party's political allies. So, and there are some comments from the think tanks. Director of Asian Studies Center at the Heritage Foundation, Walter Lohman, he wrote a report just to outline the difference between these two bills, the Senate and House bills. Mm-hmm. So he concluded that the House bill could actually undermine U.S. competitive advantage. He wrote, the House version has very little to do with the actual China policy. And he further said, despite a handful of useful foreign policies and security provisions, the acts, he said that he referred to the House Act, its overwhelmingly impact would be to undermine America's ability to compete effectively with China.
Yeah. So actually, since this is a House bill, actually they're all facing re-election in the November. Actually, each of us have something to do with it. We could just write write an email and pick a phone call to our congressional representative's office and telling them about this. One thing that I want to share with you, in China, okay, the CCP scholars or the CCP officials, they are very open about what they do when they are in their inside circle. Pretty much they said, Americans, they let them do their innovation, we just 抄作业, okay, we just copy their homework. It's like a copy the homework. No matter how diligent or talented the Americans are, they only need to do the copy work. Because of the connection of the internet, right? They could hack into virtually every computer because they have the top, I would say, on that technology, they're the top-notch hackers, hacking technology. They come in and steal things. As we work diligently day in and day out, millions of dollars of investment into the innovation, they just come in and just take it away. So that's why essentially, to prevent this kind of stealing, we need to cut the cord. Decouple with the CCP, and then have them lost their capability of stealing our know-how. And then in the free world of America, the innovation is powerful, can never be surpassed by the mind control CCP, the China, where people do not have the free thinking. So then give it another one or two, couple of just a decade or two, and then America will reestablish its advantage. So it is very serious things, but unfortunately our congressional representatives, our houses, they don't realize what kind of threat that we're facing. They have to take it seriously.
Yeah, and sometimes they are over-occupied by, those so-called the social issues, right?
Some of them, I think they did that intentionally, some of them unintentionally. But the result is the same, that weaken our national defense and our competition.
Yeah, and another note, actually some sunshine states, for example, Florida,
right,
they are starting to take steps to effectively possibly be decoupling with China.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's another topic, but just want to mention that.
Right. I want to say, Jay, hey, thank you very much for your donation of $10. And
wow, thank you.
You wrote this, okay? Do not stop. We support you. We patriots are under attack. Stay strong. We will bring down CCP from inside. That's very well said. To be honest, in the Chinese program earlier today, I shared this observation. I said this observation is probably not shared by many, pundits or scholars or experts in China, okay? In my view, CCP is near its end, okay? Because it has committed so much crime and atrocity against the people, is losing the heart of the people and the support of people fast, especially in the recent couple of years. Comparatively, in this country, most Americans, they are just too nice and too naive, and being manipulated by both CCP and some of our ill-intentioned politicians. Okay, we need to wake up our American people, our fellows here, so that they can really defend our country, which is the United States of America. Anyway, so we're here, and we'll carry on the work, and with you being here, we feel very, very encouraged.
Yeah, very much encouraged by all of your support.
Yeah.
I wanted to also respond to Ting Ting's comment. She said, we suppose to be a she, it's a Ting Ting name in Chinese. So, talked about need to look into the Confucius Institute. So actually, starting 2020, the Chinese government changed the name of Confucius Institute to, that's what we call it. It's called the Center for Language Education and Cooperation. So make a note of it.
Yeah.
You may not see Confucius Institute so much anymore, but remember this name, Center for Language Education and Cooperation. So they abandoned Confucius now because their tactics has been exposed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is good, right? There are decades of effort in building that. The brand now become a negative asset. Now they're building this center for language education and what cooperation. Mm-hmm. We're gonna keep tracing them and expose them wherever they go. Okay. So we'll do our job as a journalist. All right, thank you very much. Yeah?
Oh, sorry, I just wanted
Please.
to, another comments on Safe Chat from Joan. There might be 2,000 council members, but they probably look for the ones that they can groom and fix elections to get them the office where they can do China's bidding. Very well said. Actually, we have the information about how they groom and identify those elected offices, which they just make some, some pulling the string. They can make them get elected by the Chinese American voters, the so-called Chinese American voters, because unfortunately some of them are still being willingly or unwillingly manipulated by the government. So they just exploit the openness of our system to get those people elected, so that they can, just like you said, do the CCP's bidding.
Okay.
So exactly, we really have to pay attention in our community, in our election. Everybody just have to be alert and get involved.
Kathy, can you share the document, the comparison that the Congress people did about the difference between the Senate bill and the House bill?
The difference?
Right. You have the
Okay.
link for that?
The report
let's
from
post
by
it.
the Lowman. Yes.
Yeah, let's post it in the community and also in the description of this program, so that for you can send that to your congressional representative, and in the email, or call them, and just remember, just support the Senate bill, support the Senate version of the bill, which is very important. All right, I think it's over 1 hour.
Yes, exactly 1 hour now.
Okay.
So
thank you for staying with us, and okay, stay strong and stay hopeful.
All right,
Have
take
a
care.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Until Friday.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.